today I'm going to show you how to make a recycled bird feeder. Okay, let's look at what we need. Okay, so first of all, you're going to need some kind of used jug or bottle. I like to use, this one's a milk jug, this one is a water jug. Make sure you clean it out well with some hot soapy water, rinse it out really good. You don't want to make birds sick, okay? And before you actually put seed in it, we're gonna have to make sure it's really dry too, because you don't want the seed to get moldy. Okay, so we got a bottle. So what we're gonna do is, you can see I cut holes in this one. So I got a permanent marker. So I don't like to cut too many holes. I wanna leave a little bit of shelter so rain doesn't get in as bad. So I just cut 2 holes, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing to this. So I'm going to draw a line here. I'm doing kind of an oval shape here. And I don't want to go too low. You want room for the seed to sit. And you're going to stick the dowel through it too. See, we got a dowel. So, drawing both sides. Okay, so those look pretty good. So next I'm going to need what's called a craft knife or an X-Acto knife. Now these are a little dangerous, so be careful. It's just too hard to cut these kind of bottles with scissors. These are really sharp, so don't hurt yourself. Okay, so I got the craft knife, and I'm just going to puncture a hole. And you see I'm cutting along the outside. I don't want to leave the permanent marker on there. I try to take away anything I think could even be possibly unsafe for the birds. Don't want to do harm while you're trying to do good. Okay, you see where I'm cutting? Just be really careful. Sometimes these are so sharp they'll slide through the plastic. Okay, pull this flap out. You can see how I'm cutting. Okay, so we cut out that side. Kind of make sure nothing's too sharp on the edges. You don't want a bird to cut themselves. Alright, so now we're going to cut out the other side. Be really careful. Try to keep your hand out of the way. You do not want to cut yourself. You will need stitches if you cut yourself with this. These are very sharp. Okay, so again, cutting the flap out. Okay, now this one I gotta trim up a little bit. I still got a little marker, it looks like a sharp spot. So I'm gonna take it, just cut it out a little piece. That looks pretty good. Sometimes you have to get some of the little extra floppy pieces too. I don't really like to leave those too much either. Alright, so now we have the holes. I'm going to put this away because this is really sharp. I don't want to leave this laying around. But I will need that again in a little bit. So now what I need is something for the birds to sit on. So this is a dowel rod. It's not a huge one, okay? Now I did have to cut a piece of this. I had a long stick of dowel wood and I had to cut it. So I do have a piece here. Now there's a couple ways to cut this. You can use a hacksaw, which is what I used on this, or some other tool that's for cutting. Again, be safe. If you need a parent, get a parent. Now I'm going to show you a special way that you can cut this. If you can see, I took a large pair of scissors and kind of just cut around, not enough to break the scissors. I just kind of wore away, because this is the piece I want. Okay, I just kind of wore away around the edge there, made a sort of dent. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see. This is one way to do it. I would really recommend using a hacksaw or something if you've got one of those tools. We're going to see how this goes though. Oh, it worked. Awesome. Of course, the other option is you can always buy a short dowel rod. Okay, but now let's put that away. Now, do you see how rough that is? What we're going to do is we're going to sand it, okay? I've got different kinds of sandpaper here. I'm going to do this over here. It's really messy, just so you know. But you don't want that to be too sharp and hurt a bird, so try this piece too. Even if you use a hacksaw, you'll want to do this, okay? It feels pretty smooth. The other end seems like it's okay too. Now we get something for them to sit on, right? So, this is where our craft nick comes back out again. So, you can kind of see where I put it. I kind of lodged it at an angle here. I didn't have to glue it because it's in there so tight. So you don't see bird's not going to fall off, okay? Which is what I want. I didn't want to have to glue it. I wasn't sure glue would be safe. So again, I don't like to introduce anything that I even think would hurt a bird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by cutting a hole on one side right here. About the size of the dowel. You can kind of eyeball it. Start small. Work up towards being bigger. And just kind of cut a circle. Alright, let's see how big that is, okay? Let's see if that'll fit. Nope, too small still. It's just fine. I'll just make it a little bit bigger. Oh, okay, that fits. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is kind of... Okay, so I'm going to kind of eyeball where it's going to come out on the other side, okay? And I'm just going to make a little mark. You can use a marker too. That might be a little bit safer actually. Okay, so take that out. And now I'm going to cut the other hole. Actually, I think I'm going to redo that. It's a little too far over. I'm going to try that again. Let's do this safely. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That's a little bit better. Okay. Cut a hole. Okay, let's see if that's going to fit. I think it will. Yep. Okay, let's see how stable it is. You don't want it to just fall when your bird's trying to sit on it. Seems pretty stable, as long as maybe like a crow doesn't try to sit on it. Now we have our edges, we have our dowel rod in. So here's another important step. We need to cut some holes or slits in the bottom for drainage, okay? Because we don't, again, we're trying to keep the seed as dry as we can. We don't want it to mold. That might make the birds sick. So I'm just gonna take my craft knife and just poke in some holes, you know, some good sized holes in the bottom here. Some slits. I want it to, enough to where the water will come out without losing all my seed too at the same time. Okay, so lots of holes here and there. Okay, see what I'm doing here. I'm wiggling it because I'm trying to get it to open up more so it's not so tight that it won't drain water, but that way I don't have to actually cut holes out because I'm afraid that the holes would be too big with the craft knife. So I'm not done with the craft knife yet. So now I've got my holes, so what's left is we gotta hang it up somehow. Okay, now you can see I put a hole in the top here so that it will hang like that. I tried tying it around the top and I was having trouble. I was afraid it would slip off and fall if you hung it up somewhere, especially if it was windy. So I have a long piece of twine here and I tied a really big knot in the end, okay? A really, really big knot. You can see it's good sized, okay? So I'm going to take the cap off, and I'm going to cut a hole in the top. Now, if you have a drill, that would probably be better for this, to be honest, because the hole will be smoother, and also, if it's too sharp, it might cut into the twine over time, hanging and swinging like that, but I don't have a drill. So I'm using this, and I'll show you a way you can kind of smooth it out. So I'm taking it and I'm cutting. Okay, so cut a little slit, and then I'm going to try and cut a little hole. It's very difficult to get a super round hole with these. I'm trying to make it big enough I can get the twine through. Getting there. Be very, very careful. It's easy to slip and cut yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna put these away. Yes, I'm done with this now. So this needs to be put away. So I did take some scissors and I stuck it in the hole. I kind of rounded out a little bit more to make it a little bit smoother. It's not perfect. It's not like drilling a hole into it. But, so if you have to do it this way, keep an eye on your bird feeder. You might have to change out the twine sometime. Don't let it, try to keep it from falling, you know. That's pretty circular though. So I'm gonna go for that. Okay, so the knot is gonna go on the bottom inside the tub. So I'm gonna take the other end and string it through the bottom of the cap. Okay. And see, it's pretty good size. I'm going to screw this back on. Screw it on tight. Now I can take and I can make a loop on the other side, or you can just tie it to something like a branch or if you've got one of those stands out there for bird feeders. Tie a really good knot. I like square knots, so if you look up square knot. Okay, so we got a loop, And we got a bird feeder. Okay. One thing I do want to say is when you're done, blow it out with something, the inside out, wipe it, something, because there's little pieces of plastic in here still from when I was cutting the plastic. I do not want a bird to eat that. So make sure you get all of the little pieces of plastic out before you, and make sure it's dry before you put it out, okay? All right, thanks for watching. Please subscribe.